everybody. Wow. Keep it, Ma. We never edit. I'm losing. My voice is still hoarse from the Jets-Patriots game.
Well, if you do one of these things every day and you go to games, you know,
it's tough. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this, my friends, is The Thunder Show, a.k.a. the internet's most passionate wine program. And the reason I'm smiling is I'm thinking about all the people that think I'm way too hyper and obnoxious. This is probably the one episode they can watch because, Mott, the voice is gone. The sign's still up there, and I was right, Mott, and you want a big game? So everybody's in a good mood. This is a very, very special episode. We are getting to see a preview of some of the wines that made Wine and Spirits 100 Best Wines of the Year, and I'm very excited you're here.
Great to see you, Gary.
Why don't you tell the Vayner Nation who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Josh Greene. I edit and publish Wine and Spirits magazine, and I've been doing it since 1984, in fact. And interviewed Gary last year.
Yeah.
We had a great time down at Terroir in New York.
It was fun.
It was a blast. And every year we taste about 10,000 wines, all blind. We have 6 critics on staff.
Double blind or blind?
We tell people, basically it's trade people who come and taste with us. So we tell them the region, and we tell them the variety and the year, and that's it.
Got it.
Yeah, and then we taste them with the trade. They either recommend or don't recommend the wines, and then the critics taste them and give them a score. And the wineries that do best, 100 wineries from around the world, we do a big tasting in San Francisco. This is our 6th year for doing it, and it'll be on October 14th because this comes out October 13th, same day as your book.
Thank you for that. He's a friend. What I'm really excited about with this episode is the reason we wanted to do it was give you enough time for everybody that's in San Fran or the surrounding areas, or you hardcore maniacs. I know how you like to fly around and taste wine. This event is open to the public.
It is. It's a 6:30 to 8:30 event at the Design Center in San Francisco. And
there's a link on the site? There's a link on the site.
It's wineandspiritsmagazine.com. And there's a link for the Top 100 event. And we're going to have
It's free?
No. It's $95 for consumers. And
that's
it
still,
goes...
I mean, look at these two. I mean, $95 when you've got Diamond Creek and Cristal and
that's just
Latour 05?
No, Latour won't be there because they're not a winery. They're with one of the 100 best wines last year.
Got it.
But this is all the wineries of the year. What it is, we have a VIP section at 6 o'clock, and you can pay a little extra to come in at VIP, or you can come in at 6:30 and taste everything.
Krug is going to be there?
What's that?
Krug.
Krug will be there, yep. This is last year, but Krug was
also
a Winer of the Year this year. Krug will be there, Roederer will be there, Diamond Creek will be there, Morietta, all these folks. And really top-level people from around the world. And a lot of the winemakers come. We have 10 cool new restaurants from around San Francisco that are going to be serving food. People like RN74, Bartisono,
no kidding, huh?
Kitchenette. Yeah, I mean, just some really great new places that have opened up.
How many people last year?
We have 300 consumers and 300 trade. We do a trade section in the beginning, and then a consumer section
Is it
afterwards.
2-pack for the consumers? I think they're going to think that.
I don't think that this year it'll be too crowded. Last year we got a little bit of, Yarrow wrote it up on his blog just now and said the only problem was it was a little crowded last year. It's one of the best events in San Francisco, but it was a little crowded. This year we're doing it at the Design Center, which is a much bigger space.
So more wide.
Wider, a lot more room around the tables. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. So, it's also, I always think it's nice to be at a crowd. As long as it's not too crowded, I think a good crowd is a good thing.
I agree. I'm all about the controlled chaos. I wanna interact with people.
Absolutely.
I don't mind waiting a few minutes to get a pour.
Yeah, and you don't really have to wait too long. You really don't, because there's so many different tables and there's so many great wines that you can go to one area and be pretty unrestricted in what you're tasting, and then go back to another area. We usually have like a Pinot area. We have we do it all by style. So there'll be a fresh whites area, there'll be a champagne and oysters area. Sure. We have all the oysters you can eat.
West Coast?
It's all Hog Island this year.
Right. Nice.
And we just do thousands of oysters for, so people can just scarf down oysters.
So these 5 wines that we have in front of us are actual wines that
will be there. Yep.
That will be there. Now these are top 100 wineries.
Yes. But each one of the wineries, we tell them that they have to pour one of their 2 or 3 top scoring wines, and they have to pour one of the best.
From you guys within that year?
From us within that year, plus a wine that they want of their choice. So usually Like Ridge came last year with some really old zins.
Oh,
that, you know,
so it gets neat like that.
Yeah, yeah, and then they have stuff behind the table that they bring out. You know, if you
so ask them for like do that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So a little inside trick to any wine trade event, right?
It's true. If you chat up a winemaker and sort of show that you're interested, they'll bring out the cool stuff.
What's underneath there. It's true. It's funny. It's a very good point. All right, let's start getting into the wines.
Sure.
Actually, let's do a few more minutes about this. 84. What got you into making this dive into the publishing world of a magazine in this space?
Well, I've been working at a company that financed magazines, and this was a client, and I started consulting for them on my own. I started my own business, started consulting for them, and I eventually, in '89, I bought the magazine from the original publisher.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's amazing.
I was always interested in wine. It was something that I really liked.
Growing up? Or later in
Well,
life?
in college, yeah. In college, I was
when you were clearly over 21 years old, of course.
Maybe.
All right, Matt, let's get going here. First wine, it looks like it's going to be a Vino Verde.
That it is.
And so this is, I love their is this a new package for them?
I think it is a new package either this year or last.
Right?
Yeah.
Abuelita, it used to be a blue package, right?
Well, they've done a lot. They've made a lot of changes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Quinta de Abuelita 2008 Vino Verde, $9 US. Tell me about the.
They made a lot of changes, and this is, I think, really one of probably, from my point of view, the best wine value in the world. If I'm going to buy
this specific wine, Vino Verde.
Wine.
Got it.
Well, Vino Verde as a whole as well, but this specific wine, it's an amazing team. You know, you go to Vino Verde and all the different growers will tell you about their trellis systems.
That's right.
And they have these trellis systems that sort of snake around and do all these weird things, and they make a big fuss over it. These guys, the trellis systems look like a normal trellis system. It doesn't look all screwed up, or strange anyway. And they grow much tighter, in terms of their vines per acre. And they have been experimenting with the varieties there. You know, the varieties are really strange. It's like Albarino, Trajadura, Lorero. Those are the three varieties they put into this.
Is this predominantly Lorero-based wine?
Predominantly Trajadura and Lorero, and then some Albarino, and sometimes a couple other things in it. But it's really, I think they've gotten the freshness down. They've been working with Denis de Bordeaux from Bordeaux. And for $9.
I know.
It's crazy.
I know. And that's the suggested. I mean,
yeah, and so it sells for less.
We probably sell like $6.98. You know, yeah. Like, I mean, all right, let's give it a little bit of a sniffy sniff. I mean, this is what I'm always excited about with these wines. Aromatically, I've always find these extremely exciting, very fresh, very clean, peachy. You know, I like the pear.
Really peachy.
Right? Really peachy.
This particular vintage is really peachy, and that's, I think, the Albarino in this vintage was really peachy.
Yeah.
And their
really peachy.
Their Albarino is like $12, and it's great. For this particular, this is their estate one. Their Albarino, they purchased the grapes for that. But this one I think for the value for money is incredible.
So all the Viniacs at home know I've been preaching Portuguese wines for the last year. I'm gonna have to find a new flavor of the month next year, Matt. Let's take some early. Leave a comment for some early candidates for region to focus on. But when you drink this wine, it has great acid, but it's not too over the top, the acid.
No, and you got to like acidity to like Vino Verde. I mean,
if
you got to deal with acidity.
Vino Verde is not your thing if you don't like the acid.
No.
But that being said, that's why that was my opening line. This is not as acidic as a lot of the Vino Verde that is out there.
And that's because they grow it really well. That's because they do have lower yields. And they get really intense fruit character in their wine, and it balances the acidity.
Yeah,
the acidity is high, but it's got a lot of flavor, and you don't feel all that. You don't feel the acid burn in your mouth the way you do with some others. Pass that Jets bucket over here.
What the heck? Yeah, I like this. This is this has a lot more flavor profile than I would have expected. To me, I could have used a little more acid. Just that's my palate. I do like the pear flavor.
And in the last vintage in 07 was better than the 08.
Okay.
And it's going to last. I mean, if people see 07 around, they should buy it.
Yeah.
Because it's got some longevity to it. People don't think about aging Vino Verde, but it can age, and especially Albarino can age.
Yeah, for sure.
And their wine can age. So the 07 was a better wine. This is a damn good wine, and for who's going to quibble at the price?
Yeah, no, I mean, at this price point, this is very attractive entry level. When I think about how many of you are drinking New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs, which are fun and $8 to $12, but have widely been accepted and drank. when you think about all the subpar wines that are priced between $8 and $15 in the white wine category from all over the world, everybody's got their skeletons in the closet. This really competes at a high level. It's a nice wine.
Yeah, and we always put this at the event when they've been a Winer of the Year. We put them out by the oysters with the champagnes, and it's great with oysters. It's just like it's the perfect sort of wine for shellfish.
This is a massive shellfish wine. We've talked about that in the past, and I totally agree with you. To me, for my palate, because I know that's what you watch the show, some of you for, this is an 87, 88 plus point wine. I mean, it's really good. I mean, this is very fresh, very clean, lacks a little acid for my palate, but I actually think that may make it, for a good majority of people, even more fan-friendly. I think for people that really drink a lot of wine, the 07 might be the one to go with. But I have a funny feeling that if you're just getting into it, or people that are bothered by the acid or it's too sharp for them, this could be probably pretty popular wine.
Yeah, because it's fruitier. This is definitely fruitier. You're talking about peach and pear. You definitely get that in this wine. And this wine, I think, will appeal more to an American who's not necessarily as into that high acid stuff.
I think so.
I love the high acidity, but
And I think a lot more of the American palate is going towards the acid wines.
You think so?
I do. I see a push. I think people are looking for wines that act friendlier with food. And I definitely felt the vibe. I mean, where I really see it, not only from search terms, from just people emailing me, but just in sales. I was looking, a couple months ago, because we had a debate with somebody, the Italian whites outside of Pinot Grigio have really garnished a lot of attention. Falanghina.
And those have lots of acidity.
Tons.
Those have lots of acidity.
And so watching people really adopt to them, and, Ribolla Gialla and things of that nature, wines from Friuli, and, they've Trentino. These white wines have really caught a lot of people's attention. So let's move on.
To Cristal.
So let's talk about Cristal for a minute. I mean, it's very common. I mean, it's massively known. It's the big deal thing.
I'd rather taste it out of these, actually.
I love it. By the way, I'm with you. They were here. I was like, I'm with you. I am with you. Let's rinse it though.
Sure. Rinse with Cristal. Why not?
You're gonna get yelled at for this. I'm gonna definitely get yelled at for this. Can you go? What's your take on Cristal? Your personal take, and I know you're obviously in the industry, and you've got to be political and what have that, or you may love it.
The reason I have this here is that I was over in April tasting Van Clair with Jean-Baptiste Lacaillon, who makes the wine.
That's right.
And I've been a big fan of Roederer for a while. I mean, when we do our tastings, Roederer always shows up really, really well. We taste house by house. Again, it's blind, but we do the groupings by house so that one house can't screw up another. If you have a really sweet wine from one house, it'll mess up the next wine and stuff.
Sure. So do you
Roederer's always shown well.
Do you do the luxury cuvées against each other?
Nope, we do all of the house together. So all the Roederer wines together, all the Moet wines together, all of Tettinger together.
But you're not sure. Do you?
You don't know what house it is.
So you're just drinking a flight of 4 sparkling wines, and this could be Bollinger, or it could be
anything. Yep.
Fantastic.
And what's always struck me about Cristal is that it is a grower's wine. This is all completely estate. When the owner, when Rousseau took over in the 60s, he basically consolidated all of the land into the middle of the slope. So he had land. He had all these different bits and pieces of land, and he sold them off and bought other land and consolidated in the mid slope. So they have, I think, 370 different lots, different parcels, and they have 450 tanks in their cellar. They make it all separately. They have all these blending components, and this is the best. This is not the best. This is the most elegant, energetic wine that they make.
Yeah, that's what they always love to say. That elegant energy. Yeah. I remember him referencing that. All right, Matt. So let's zoom. This is the Louis Roederer Cristal 2002. Pretty interesting vintage. Had a lot of hype, the O2s.
As it should.
And have been consistently rocking it out for me. I'm
very blown away by O2. I was taken by 96, but 96 is raw and tough and can be mean. I mean, it can be really tough wine.
Yeah, I agree.
O2 is glorious wine.
O2 reminds me a lot more of 90 than 96 did. Yep. A lot more.
It's much more like 90.
No question. All right, on the sniffy sniff, there's this. What are you picking up on the nose? Why don't you fire away first?
I get a lot of almost floral character. I get almost like a chamomile and a floral character, and I get I get some leasiness. But I don't necessarily get any one thing. I mean, what strikes me about this wine is that it's really mineral, and much more than a lot of the other prestige cuvées that you'll taste. You get a lot of what I think of as limestone character, and I don't know how to translate that into something that anyone would understand.
Crushed rock, right? Yeah. Like there's this rocky component. There is there's kind of like a there is a little bit of a nut. I get a little more nuttiness than you're picking out. I do get like almost like a walnut shell kind. There's some walnut-y kind of things going on for me.
And I often get that in champagne, but there are other champagnes that are much more.
Oh, there's some that are just
way over in that direction.
Nuts for days.
Yeah, and that's an oxidative character, and I don't think of this wine as a really oxidative style. But I think it's got a beautiful nose, and it also, if you taste this wine tomorrow, it'll be fantastic. This wine will be so much better tomorrow than it is today.
As are most quality champagnes that nobody talks about. Yeah. You know, the whole 2-day champagne secret is like this amazing unknown. Many times you guys have seen me talk about sparkling wine is my life at the end of the day when I debate the wine world. If it's desert island stuff, by category, it's always going to be sparkling wine. And probably desert island wines are probably going to often be a great vintage of Ceylon or a Krug or, you know, some of the classic grower champagne houses. What's fascinating about this producer to me is how pop cultured out it is.
Well, it used to be.
Well, it's become less hip hop.
Yeah, it definitely pulled away from that. It's very aggressively pulled away from that.
Yeah, probably in a lot of ways wrongly, not only socially but you know economically. But it's still pop culture. It's not. I wouldn't say hip hop. I'm pop culture. I mean, people that don't drink wine or champagne know what Cristal is.
Absolutely.
So it definitely has amazing branding, but I think it gets dissed often by wine nerds. Because we think it's too mainstream, and by some chemical imbalance we want to find nerd stuff. And I've found it very fascinating that some have been great. I've done a Cristal on the show that I didn't love, actually, but I was also chasing dirt, so that's another story. But the 96 version of this bottle and the 90 version of this bottle and the 88 version of this bottle are probably three of the 150 best sparkling wines I've ever had. I mean, these guys make real wine.
And this is, for me, the O2 version is one of the best sparkling wines I've ever had.
Ever? Wow.
Yeah.
So let's get into this.
I just rated it 100 points in the magazine. The second year I've tasted it, it'll be in the December issue with 100 points.
Wow.
That and their rosé from O2. They're both rocking wines. They're both
200 points.
2 100-point wines, yeah.
And how many 100-point wines did you score this year?
That's a 100-point wine over there. That was last December. Yep.
Diamond Creek.
Yep.
I'm dying to see what that's going to taste like. That's going to be fun. But, I mean, you're not...
no, I've given out...
Like 5, 7 a year?
No, in my entire career, I've given out... I've personally given out 4 100-point scores.
In your entire career?
In my entire career, yep.
And you gave 2 recently to this?
Well, they're basically co-equals. I mean,
I respect
absolutely
that.
Gorgeous wines.
And this?
And that, yep.
So...
That was a year ago, basically.
Fair enough. So in your entire career, since 84 or since 89?
Since 84, yeah.
You've given 4.
Well, we weren't using the 100-point scale back in 84.
Got it. So how long have you been using the 100-point scale?
Probably since about 94 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
in those 14 years, yep.
In these 14 years, you've given 4, and we've got 2 on the table?
Yep.
Ma. We're doing okay. I mean, that's pretty big time.
Yeah. Well, that is, I think that's...
Are you feeling you're getting, weaker in your older age?
No, I think I know more about what I'm looking for now.
That's a great answer.
And,
damn it. I tried to get him, he crushed
and so I'm
me
more
right
confident
back.
in I'm more confident in saying that I would say that it's about as perfect a wine as I could want.
That's very funny. I feel, you know what? I think that is a tremendous answer because I actually, and unfortunately, not a lot of the goodness has been happening on Wine Library TV because I'm tasting wine all the time. And I feel myself scoring wine higher for almost that same rationale, more and more.
Yeah, I don't generally. Myself. Yeah, I don't generally. I mean, I'd say that because of the overall market, and because 90 points has come to mean a certain thing, that's sort of a threshold for a certain level of wine. But I don't think that our magazine has crept up too much. It's just that we're trying to spread how we're using the scale. You know,
the funny debate, I wonder what your magazine's take is on this, and I'll get back to this one in 1 second, is I've been thinking a lot about why do certain varietals have a ceiling? I really, like, if we all in the know love Riesling so much, I definitely do, then why aren't Rieslings more commonly getting 97, 98 square, right?
They're getting them in here.
Good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you.
I mean, certainly 96, 97. I don't know. I think we had a 98-point wine from Sivan Schubert this year.
Oh, Schubert's fantastic. Yeah. Good for you. I mean, I've been thinking of, like, Tanat and Chinones, like a great Chinon, Ogli. Why can't he, in a great year, get, a 98. It feels like
you should. But I think again, part of that is that there isn't enough confidence on the part of the reviewer to say, I know Chinon so well
that I'm going here.
Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. This is a spectacular effort from Roeder. From my palate, falls more in the 94, 95 point range. I'm going to go 94 plus for my official score. However,
and I would agree with you, Gary, and I would say taste it tomorrow. I tasted it the second day, and that's when I raised the score. I gave it about a 94, 95 the first time I tasted it.
No kidding.
And I usually taste things I like. I usually taste them again the second day and a third day, and I kept going up on this one.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to plug this, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it tomorrow.
And it was Peter Leem, who lives in Champagne and is has a Champagne blog.
Yeah, no.
He was tasting with me on the consecutive days, and we both agreed that it was spectacular. And I was saying to him, I really feel like I need to give this one 100 points. And he said,
what would be really neat if you guys did this, and maybe I should. What would be really neat, and because it's so much in the culture of what happens with wine, so many people do drink wine over a 2-day period. Mm-hmm. Could be fascinating to score wines in that
day 1, day 2, day 3.
You know? Mm-hmm. Definitely day 1 and 2 because it's so common.
Yeah. And people have leftover wine and they're going back to it, and they think that they're actually probably thinking that it should be worse.
Well, I think a lot of people, I think through experience, a lot of people do realize it's better. That's what I think gets people excited about decanting and other things, because they do realize, oh my God, why is this better? Yeah. Now, some wines do fall apart. Mm-hmm. That's kind of neat. That's very exciting. Great stuff. So clearly, a lot of you, luckily, we live in this great country, and there's great countries around the world, and especially if you're watching a wine blog, you're in a luxury kind of thought process. You're going to be ordering a special bottle of champagne either on New Year's to celebrate something. The O2 Cristal for what's going to be in the market, because you're going to have the Doms and the Krugs and what have you, and I agree with you. I think this is showing extremely well.
The O2 Krug has not come out yet.
That's
and
right.
It's going to be really interesting to see what the O2 Krug is like, because that was like Henri Krug's last fantastic vintage.
I'm dying to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I really want to taste that wine.
But in comparison to some of there's some 2000s out there in the market, some 98s in the market. Try to zone in on this vintage, and again, if you go luxury, this is a spectacular effort, and I'm kind of giddy about trying this tomorrow.
Also, the vintage wines from O2 are spectacular.
It's a big time year.
Yeah.
It's a big time. I think I did an episode about how great O2 was going to be in December, and they have not disappointed. It's a great vintage. All right, let's move on.